Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Lois and welcome back to UniversIO. In the last episode, we made the Pure Daisy from Botania, which gave us access to a lot of things, including terracotta, which gave us access to hopper botany pots, which are amazing things where we can grow plants in a single space automatically and just collect the resources. And that's what I'm doing. I made 3 more because why not? And yeah, not using the last one right now, but we might use it later. I just don't really have anything to grow right now, so I'm not too worried about it. But it's there if we need it. And as you can see, I made a bit of a house. Something just to be able to, work through the night and not have to worry about dying to mobs constantly. Because zombies are smart. They know where we live, and they will come after us. So between episodes, I also was working on a couple of things. Most notably, I went out into the world and I got one of each of the mystical flowers because we're going to be doing a lot of stuff with Botania today. That is kind of the main, I guess that's just the main mod we have to start with. And so we have all of the mystical flowers, and in fact I'm going to take a little bit of wood. I want to make another chest. I also got rid of that one mod that was animating the items when we picked them up. I didn't like that, so it's gone. It's not a big deal. It's just a visual thing, but it was very annoying to me. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put another chest down so that any sort of, I think we have some petals. And let's get the flowers that aren't put away. The two talls, I guess, we'll have as well in there. They can go down here, but what we can do is just something like that, so that we can have all of our flowers. And for the record, we can get more of these from the botany pots. That's why I have so many red ones. I actually had it in a botany pot while I went out and looked in the world for other stuff. So the plan today is to progress, and I think most of what we are going to have to do is progress through Botania. Luckily, I am pretty skilled at Botania. I've done a lot of stuff in the past. I've even automated things using Botania, which was an interesting thing. Oh, that is not, I put the wrong ones in the wrong place. Alright, so let's see what the quest book wants us to do. I said quest book. So we need to do 3 things currently. We need to make a mana pool, we need to make a mana spreader, and we need to make something that makes mana, aka Endoflame. So those are not going to be too difficult. We should probably grab some seeds over here. There's only 1 seed. I know I have a lot of seeds, and there's more in here, so we'll just grab a handful. So let's start with the Endoflame. I think that would be good. So the Endoflame is a generating flower, as it says right there. And basically what that means is there's 2 types of flowers in Botania, primarily, and that is functioning flowers, like the Pure Daisy, which do something, and generating flowers, which generate mana. So we need to have a generating flower so that we can create mana, so that we can then use it. Most other functional flowers require mana in order to do anything, so that is kind of the trade-off. You make mana with some flowers to do different things with other flowers. And the way the flowers generate mana depends on the flowers. So Endoflames, for example, are basically furnaces, furnace generators. So they take anything that is burnable and they use that to create mana. There are a lot of different types. Some use experience, some use I think some still use water. There's a lot of different ones. So we're going to need brown, red, and I think it was orange. No, light gray. Light gray. And so let's just get these. And in fact, we could make 2 of them. And I think we will. So we're going to need just another brown. So let's take this brown mystical flower over here. and start growing some brown flowers. Eventually, if we have to use a lot of flower petals for stuff, we might actually just, you know, make the 16 botany pots and have all the colors, but not a important detail right now. So we just put the flowers in there, put some seeds, and we'll get our Endoflame. And I have to remember to shift to pick it up, or right click it. And then we can right click with an empty hand, and it puts everything back in, and then we just put the seeds in, and we can get another one. So I want to, just because we're probably going to need to make a lot of mana, and it will be better off to have more than one. So the next thing we're going to need to do is find our other resources. So we need our living rock, and we need, I have one living wood. We're going to need a lot more living wood. And we're actually going to use this gray petal here soon. So let's get some more logs. Let's just steal them from here. We're actually getting a lot of resources pretty quickly from these botany pots. It's like a minute for every tree. But the nice thing about that is that it is 2 to 4 rolls, and it's guaranteed. So we get at least 2 oak logs every time, every minute or so. So not too terrible. So let's just get this going. We'll get some more living wood. And we need 5 living rock. So we can just grab this, and we're going to need 6 living wood. So the living rock turns into the mana pool, which is used to store mana. Pretty simple. And now what happens is the Endoflames, we can put them wherever we want. And I don't really know what we're going to be doing with this quite yet. So I'm not going to put them down yet. But we can put them wherever we want. And mana spreaders will take the mana they produce and put them into a mana pool. And then we can use another mana spreader to send that somewhere else and do other things with it. I don't know what those other things are yet, so we're going to hold off on that for just a moment. But we're going to run into a little bit of a problem. So the last thing we need to make is a mana spreader. However, the recipe is a little bit different than normal Botania. Normally, Botania would require, I believe it's usually a gold ingot. We don't have gold ingots. So we need 6 living wood, some sort of petal, doesn't matter which. For the record, there's also these shimmering mushrooms. They are basically the same thing as a petal. And then we also need a cosmic ingot. Now, cosmic ingots come from cosmic dust, which we've seen how to get that from the stars. So we need to make a star, and so I need to remember how that recipe goes. I had everything for it. We just need the gravity, and there is the star, and then I believe it's just a right click, and we get some cosmic dust. So here is a question. This is used for a lot of stuff. Alright, good to know. Is this used for a lot of stuff? Yes. Some important thing. Ooh, that's a really important thing. Yeah, so it's used for a few things. So what we're going to do is we're just going to... I don't really care about, you know, maximizing efficiency with our campfire. We're just going to cook one up. We'll see how long it takes. But we need the cosmic ingot. We put that down, put our gray mystical flower petal in there, and we get our mana spreader. Now, if I'm not mistaken, there's something cool about Botania. Botania has a lot of customization, and I think that it's still a thing in this. Maybe not. Maybe it never was. I thought that the flower petal would color the inside of the spreader. I don't know if that was a thing or if I'm imagining it, but it would be cool. So, with all of that, we've unlocked a couple things. So, powdered magic, and a cauldron. Alright, so the Endoflame, we'll get that. We'll get our money for all this stuff. Now, there's one other thing that should be noted that we're probably going to need to make, and that is a wand. So the Wand of the Forest is effectively Botania's, like, oh, how do I want to say it? It's basically their multi-tool. It allows you to do a lot of different things, and I think let's use cyan. So we're going to need 2 flower petals. We're also going to need these living wood twigs, which is 2 living wood each. So we're going to need to make a little bit more living wood. Not a big deal, just because we can always get more. So let's see what this other stuff is. By the way, I have 2 of the things. We will make those in just a second. I heard the sizzle and I was like, oh, what, this done? No, it was the campfire. So let's make the Wand of the Forest. So it is pretty expensive. Oh, there's multiple recipes. So we need the living wood twigs, and then 3 of those with some flower petals. Now this is customizable. Whatever petals you put, change the color of the wand, and you can do pretty much whatever you want. Wand of the Elven Forest. Now that's something I don't know what that is. That's new to me. I've not played in this version of Botania, I'll be honest, but I have played in versions of Botania in the past, so I'm relatively familiar with it. But let's get to the one thing I have up here, a cutting board and a flint knife. So you might notice that my food source currently is melon slices, because that's like the easiest thing for us to get right now. And unfortunately, the melons that we get are whole melons. Not super useful. I'd have to place them down in order to break them, in order to get the melon slices, because there is no like crafting recipe, unless we use a cutting board. So we're going to make a cutting board. It's really cheap. And we're going to make a flint knife, because that's something I think we can do. I really hope so. And then we will be able to make more food. Now we could switch over to bread at some point, but we're gonna just go with the cutting board. And I do want to see, does this make just normal bread, or is there something special? It makes just normal bread. We could also make dough, which gives us a lot more bread, but you have to cook it, and that's not as easy, and we also can't cook it yet. Can we do anything interesting? Can we do anything with bread right now? No. Later we'll probably get better food sources, but right now we're stuck with what we have. So I do have a piece of flint. I need a stick. I also need to organize things. Eventually we're probably gonna have all the elements in a big drawer system, because I like doing that, and it works out pretty nicely actually. If you watched my material energy playthrough that I recently did, I had something like that with the alchemistry stuff, although this is Chem Library, which is a slightly different mod, but not really. So I think we can put that on top of the cutting, on top of there. And I don't remember how this works. I think we place the melon down and then we right click and we get all of the melon. Cool. And then I can also right click that and just put it on there and not have to worry about it. So it's always going to be there when I need it. Cool. So that is how we're going to get food. For now, let's put that away. And let's go ahead and pocket our money. Okay, so it wants us to do 2 things. So we need to make powdered magic. So the recipe shown, the block needs to be under the mana pool. The item that needs to be tossed in the mana pool. Okay. So mana powder. Okay. So this is complicated. The block. Okay. So I understand what it's saying. In order to make this, we need a mana pool with just a tiny little bit of mana, and we need to throw in cosmic dust. But we need to have everythingness underneath the mana pool. Alright, that is simple enough. Let's see, where do we want to put this? You know, I think what we're going to do is we're going to move our infinite water source to right over here, because that is so much nicer. And then we can plug this up. By the way, I wanted a weird shaped house because just making a square is boring. But having three tall walls is enough for us to not be harassed by monsters. The only thing is down there is awful. There is a lot of nasty things down there. And so we're going to stay away from the underground for now. So, I believe I do have some everythingness, which is good. You get that by right-clicking with the Void Harvester on the Nothingness. So let's put this here. And then we're going to place a mana pool on top of it. And we're going to need mana spreader. Let's move this. So this is where the Wand of the Forest comes in handy. And then we can place these guys like so. It doesn't really matter too much, but we are in bind mode. If we shift right click, we can turn it to function mode. We want bind mode. We want to bind this to the mana pool, so it will point towards the mana pool, and you see these lines is the mana that will shoot out. And then these are already bound to the mana spreader, so these will generate mana. This will pick it up and put it into the mana pool. Pretty simple. So the next thing I want to look at before we do too much more is I want to see what the cauldron recipe is and why we might need that. So just a cauldron. So we're going to need to make another mana pool. That's not a problem. And it just says craft a cauldron. Alright, let's worry about this first. And it's going to give us some blacker lotuses. That is amazing. We'll get to that in a second. But now we need stuff to burn. Because the Endo Flames make mana when you burn things. So we're going to just throw a couple of charcoal down. And these guys will pick them up. And they are both generating mana. And this is shooting mana into the mana pool. That's it. While we're waiting, we're going to need another mana pool. We're also going to need a cosmic dust. And we're going to need some more iron. It would be 7. 7 iron is enough. So, yeah, we're just going to make another mana pool. And I believe, let's see, living rock. In order to make living rock, it is the smooth stone. And I believe if we just do this and leave it, it will eventually get there. So these guys are already used up the charcoal. Let's give it a little bit more. I don't exactly know how much mana we're going to need. That is one thing about Botania that is intentional design. The mana pool is very vague. Botania is not a magic mod. If you've watched me play with Botania ever before, I've said this before, and it's true. Botania is not a magic mod. It is actually a tech mod that is based around magic. But, you know, these guys generate X amount of mana for the burn time or whatever the formula is, and it's always the same. And it's just that you can't accurately read things, so it's a little bit more magical feeling. But it's just like generating RF or whatever else you'd have in a normal tech mod. So we can make everything now. So let's go ahead and throw the cosmic dust in here. You see the check mark? It says that we can do it. And we'll get some mana powder. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and make that cauldron. So we're going to make a mana pool and surround it by elemental iron. And that gives us a cauldron. Cool. So that does what for us? I see. So we can get a silver coin, and we can get some blacker lotuses and more silver coins. And now we need to make the altar, the Runic Altar, Altar of Forgotten Runes. And we're going to need more. Do we have more living stone? Okay, we do have enough. That is fine. So the altar is the next thing that is kind of a big deal. And we just need to do that. Pretty easy. And we'll get the Runic Altar. Now, the Runic Altar is basically another crafting table. However, it requires the use of mana. So we're going to need to make fire, mana, earth, water, and air runes. All of the runes in the game. Or at least the tier 1 runes for Botania. Now, this is going to be fun. So, runes. There are a lot of runes. There are 5 basic ones. So you have the elementals, air, earth, fire, water, and then mana. Then the tier 2 runes, you typically use the tier 1 runes. Those are spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And then there are 7 more runes that use a combination of the tier 1 and tier 2 runes, and that is the 7 deadly sins: lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride. And let's see if I'm right about that. Yes. So it uses 1 tier 1 and a tier 2 rune. The summer, for example, uses 2 tier 1 runes and some other stuff. And they all require 2 things to be crafted. So first of all, you need your mana, your Runic Altar, which we'll just put right there. Actually, no. We're going to put it right... I got to pick it up. We're going to put it right here. So we're going to need another mana spreader. So that is unfortunate. And let's go ahead and cash in that money. So let's get this going. Actually, we'll do that in a second because we might need some other stuff. They require different things. So water, fire is already there, earth, air, and mana. So fire requires orange petal block, red petal block, and a brick and gunpowder. Water requires blue and cyan, some sand, and water. Who would have guessed? They all require mana powder. Earth is lime green, cobbled deep slate, and cobblestone. Air requires light blue, white, oxygen, and sugar. And mana is purple, magenta, pink, mana in a bottle, and the mana powder. Now, what you have to do is you get all those ingredients, you place them on the Runic Altar, they float around and all look cool, and you supply it with mana, and then once it has enough mana, you put a piece of living rock on there and finish things off. So we are going to need a lot of things. So mostly it is petal blocks. Petal blocks are 9 petals. Not too difficult. Might take a little bit of time. So we're probably going to do this next time at this point. But we can talk about one other thing. And I'm going to keep one of these just in case. Doesn't look like we can make these. But I'm going to keep one just in case we can do something with it later. But blacker lotuses emit strong magical vibes. That's because if there is mana in a mana pool and you throw in a blacker lotus, it puts in a lot more mana. So if we look at this, we're at like, about 3 little ticks. You can kind of see, so it's separated into quarters, and then each quarter has like 5 little sections. We're about halfway through the second little section, so about 1/8 of a mana pool. If we throw in that, we're almost to 1/4 of a mana pool. So you can get a lot of mana very quickly just from the blacker lotuses. So that's going to be really useful to get a ton of stuff. So of all this stuff, we're going to need to get more stars, more mana powder. That's not too terrible. I have some helium and hydrogen. We can make. I'll make more stars and do all that off camera. Let's see what is going to be difficult to get. So gunpowder and brick. We're going to need that. We don't need that right now. We don't need the living wood right now. So let's clean up the inventory and figure out what we're going to need. So we're going to need 5 living rocks. The cauldron, I don't know what we need for yet. So we're just going to put that away. And we're going to need a little bit more star juice. So let's start gathering the stuff together. We are almost out of time for today's episode, so I'm going to end things off here in a second, but let's get another star. Get some more cosmic dust. And we're going to need 5 of these for sure. I'm going to put this away. And we're going to just drop all 5. Get all that wonderful mana powder. So, we have 5 of those. We're going to need 5 mana powders. And gunpowder brick. I'll smelt up the brick later. Do I not have... I do have gunpowder. I've collected a little bit of that. And then the petals. So that is easy enough. Sand and water. Alright, the water is not difficult. H2O. And I know we're going to need 2 oxygen, so we'll just go ahead and grab another one of those. And I think we need to have Philosopher's Stone in there. Yes, so water. And then if we want to get sand, we can transmute it. So dirt or grass becomes sand when we do that. So we can get that pretty easily. Not too bad. We just need to fill the dirt back in. And that is water done. So earth requires cobblestone. Easy enough. And then cobbled deep slate. Now that is pure daisy and stone. Cutting board, deep slate. That is going to be a little bit more tedious. So that is a catalyst. Yeah, so what we're going to have to do is brave this. And if you can't tell, there is a ton of stuff down here. So we're going to have to not die down there. Oh my gosh, there are so many. Alright, there's at least a little bit of light in there. So that is going to be a challenge to get deep slate. But that shouldn't be too bad. And then air requires oxygen and sugar. Sugar comes from sugar cane, which we can get from leaves. Okay. That might be the other thing we plant. So we can get leaves really easily. Let's... I guess let's just brave the outdoors. It is almost morning, so things are going to be dying. There's a creeper there. And we can just come over to this tree and grab some leaves. And murder a creeper. Aww. Okay, so that was unfortunate, but also not the end of the world. Let's go get our stuff. So yeah, we can get the sugar cane. We are a ghost now. I'm going to have to readjust my everything. Inventory. Right. I forgot. It's like this. Alright, let's grab all the stuff. Okay. So, we're going to take the shortcut. And we'll place that back. So we can get sugarcane pretty easily from these leaves. And then we can just go grow the sugarcane over here. Eventually, once we have better access to things, like being able to make bricks easier and hoppers easier and all that kind of stuff, we probably will go ahead and grow all of the Botania flowers. I don't know exactly how. We're probably not going to use hopper things. We might use something else, but we'll get to that point when we get there. But then what else do we need? This just requires mana in a bottle, which requires a glass bottle, which requires glass, which we need sand for. So all things considered, not too terrible. Philosopher's Stone. Let's just convert that. And so I have some stuff to do between episodes, but for the most part, we just need to craft and to brave the depths. That's the harder part. So that is the plan. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!